They're building a second internet, and you're not invited. Right now, as you watch this, your data is flowing through fiber optic cables and servers mostly governed by Silicon Valley protocols. But someone is watching. More precisely, something is watching, and it's taking notes. In a nondescript building in Beijing, in a room known as the Central Leading Group for Cyberspace Affairs, the people inside don't browse the same internet as you. They can't, because the internet they use is something else entirely. Here's what should terrify you. In 2019, a Chinese researcher analyzing traffic on the Great Firewall noticed something strange. About 8% of all data packets were being duplicated. Not intercepted, not blocked, duplicated. Where were these ghost packets going? The researcher never published their full findings. After submitting the paper, they withdrew it. When journalists reached out, no comment. Then their university lab suddenly received a $12 million grant for network architecture optimization. Let me translate that. They found something they weren't supposed to, and someone made them very comfortable staying quiet. But here's the hook that should make your skin crawl. Those duplicated packets weren't being stored in China. They were being routed to a parallel network infrastructure. It exists in the same physical space as our internet, using the same cables, satellites, and cell towers, but operating on different protocols, different root servers, and completely different rules about what information is real. You think the internet is decentralized? You've been told it's impossible to control, that information wants to be free. You've been lied to. The internet was always going to centralize. It had to. Because the internet isn't a network of computers, it's a network of agreements. Agreements on how to route data, resolve domain names, and encrypt information. And every one of those agreements flows through choke points controlled by a surprisingly small number of organizations, most of them answerable to U.S. law. Until now. For the last 15 years, China has been quietly, methodically building an alternative to every single one of those choke points. They call it technological sovereignty. Western intelligence agencies have a different name for it, the Splinternet Protocol. Here's how deep the rabbit hole goes. At a 2019 UN meeting, the New IP Initiative was introduced. Publicly, it was a proposal to upgrade internet architecture for the developing world. The technical document was 347 pages of dense networking protocols that made most analysts' eyes glaze over. But buried deep inside was a single sentence that changed everything. Network operators shall maintain authoritative identity verification for all connected devices and content sources. Read that again. It means every device on this new internet would need government permission to exist. Every piece of content would have a verified source that couldn't be faked, hidden, or anonymous. It means the end of encryption that governments can't break. The end of functional VPNs, the end of saying something online that can't be traced back to your physical body. It means the end of the internet as a space where power can be questioned. Now here's where it gets truly terrifying. You've heard of the Belt and Road Initiative, China's trillion-dollar infrastructure project across 152 countries. What you might not know is that for every port, railroad, and highway China builds, they're also laying fiber optic cables and installing network equipment. Huawei routers, ZTE cell towers, all running on Chinese-designed chips that, conveniently, support those new IP protocols. Pakistan's internet backbone, Chinese equipment. Kenya's cellular network, Chinese equipment. As of 2023, more than 65 countries, representing 3.7 billion people, have infrastructure dependent on Chinese network equipment. That's over half the world's internet users. And here's the twist that should keep you up at night. That equipment works perfectly with the old internet. For now. It's backward compatible. But it's also forward compatible with something else. Something that's just waiting. In December 2022, something strange happened that barely made the news. For exactly 47 minutes, internet traffic from 23 African countries was rerouted through Chinese servers before reaching the global internet. It happened during a maintenance window announced by China Telecom. The official explanation was a routing table error. But there are no routing table errors that last exactly 47 minutes. That was a test. A proof of concept. A demonstration that with the flip of a switch, China could redirect massive amounts of internet traffic, not blocking it, but claiming it, copying it, analyzing it. And the beautiful horror of it is that because the packets still reached their destinations, nobody noticed. It was the digital equivalent of someone breaking into your home, taking pictures of everything and leaving without a trace. You get home, and everything is exactly where you left it. Except now, someone knows every secret you own. But redirection and surveillance are just the first phase. The second is already live in 40 Chinese cities, and it's spreading. Imagine an internet where every action has a reality score, where search engines don't show what's most relevant, but what's most appropriate for your score, where your ability to book travel or send messages depends on whether an AI has deemed you a quality user. This isn't dystopian speculation. This is the social credit system, and China wants to export it. The pitch to developing nations is seductive. What if your internet could automatically filter misinformation and extremism? 17 countries have already signed preliminary agreements to pilot these systems, built with Chinese technology, running Chinese protocols, and following Chinese definitions of what information deserves to exist. Here is what keeps Western intelligence analysts awake. They can see the architecture being built and the protocols being tested. What they can't figure out is when it activates. Because the SplinterNet protocol doesn't require a declaration of war, it just requires critical mass. The moment enough of the world's infrastructure runs on Chinese-compatible systems, a switch can be flipped. And suddenly, there are two internets. The Western Internet, built on Silicon Valley protocols, and the Eastern Internet built on Chinese protocols. The truly brilliant part? Both would still work. But the information ecosystems would diverge like species on separate islands until they no longer recognize each other. An internet that hasn't been censored but simply forked. The terrifying part isn't that China is building an alternate internet. It's that Western governments are responding with tools of the old paradigm: sanctions, export controls. They're trying to win a game China stopped playing 5 years ago. China isn't competing. They're building a different internet with different rules where anonymity is impossible, and every byte has an official truth value. And they're not forcing anyone to adopt it. They're just making it the easiest, cheapest option. By 2030, the UN estimates 5 billion people will access the internet primarily through infrastructure with Chinese components. 5 billion people, one firmware update away from living in a different digital reality than you. So here's what you need to understand. This isn't about whether China succeeds in replacing the Western internet. It's about whether we're already past the point where that matters. The internet was always a mirror of power. It just reflected American power so completely that we mistook it for a law of nature. We assumed information wanted to be free. China is proving that assumption was wrong. Infrastructure serves whoever builds it. The SplinterNet protocol isn't a plan to delete the Western internet. It's a plan to make it irrelevant. A digital blockbuster video serving a shrinking market while everyone else moves on to something different. The most horrifying part: it's already happening. The fork began the moment you weren't looking. The only question left is which side of the split you'll wake up on, and whether you'll ever know the difference.